Hey everybody, welcome to the True That Show. Super excited, super excited. We've got an amazing guest on today, and here's the interesting thing. So me and Caroline and Judith, who's our guest today, and I'll tell you more about her in a minute. We were all chatting about how Judith asked how me and Caroline met. And we have this great kind of funky story. If you know our story at all, if you've seen our stuff before, well, we were on a road trip together on a marketing tour through Australia. 13 hotels, 11 planes. And we were talking about some of the funky serendipitous stuff that happens. So me and Caroline can do a whole show on some of the great stuff that happens when you meet people that you didn't know before through a serendipitous event. And I'm super excited about our guest today because you know how they always say the best party's in the kitchen? Have you ever gone to a party and the best stuff's going on in the kitchen? That's when this stuff's going on and this stuff's going on and someone's pouring a little this and pouring a little that, and the best party's always in the kitchen. It's almost like a therapy room or something, right? And I'm sure you guys have that. So here's the cool thing. Have you ever heard the best party can happen in the bathroom, or girls always go to the bathroom together? So the cool thing about meeting Judith is I met her in the girls' bathroom, and we weren't at an event and said, hey, let's go together. But actually I was in the bathroom, and I'm sure you've had this. And so I want to encourage all of you, if you've ever been somewhere at a store or a bathroom or an event or a movie theater, and you just kind of know you got to talk to somebody, you don't know why, I want you to brave up. Our show is about true that and lifepreneurs and people doing some cool, funky stuff. I want you to brave up, because I'm going to be honest with you. I was at the sink and I'm kind of washing my hands, doing my thing. And I just felt this woman at the other end, 3 or 4 sinks away from me. And I'm in my head, I'm oh, I got to talk to her. I don't know why I got to talk to her. And then, me, miss, people never think I get shy, but I'm super shy, actually. Yeah. And I was oh man, I can't just, Caroline's laughing, right? She's I am, but trust me, Caroline pushes me all the time. So I like hanging out with her. But I was what am I going to say to her? I have no idea what to say to her. And I'm doing the dance in the head, it's kind of maybe if you see a really a cute person that you want to go talk to, right? And you don't have the courage to go talk to them. It could be like that. But I was I knew I had to talk to her. And then all of a sudden I just braved up. I had that moment of brave. And I'm hey, what are you doing here? She's in the bathroom. I'm she could have turned around to me and said, washing my hands, crazy lady. But she didn't. And we started some dialogue. And Judith just had an amazing story. It actually caught my heart because she's involved and has created a really powerful organization for men and men's wellness. And she has a really powerful story around why that came to her and what she's doing about it. She's going to share that with you today. But it really touched my heart. I think as many of us, we have people in our lives that, we wish we could make things different. And so certainly she caught my heart because when I talk about men's wellness, there's definitely men in my life that I would love to have seen and do see and wish could have a little bit of a shift in that area. So one. yeah. Okay. I'll take that one. But so Caroline, as I was sharing with you with Judith, and we were having that conversation around, what a great, what would we like this interview to be around? And we're talking about understanding, because I think one of the big things that Judith does is kind of shine a light, take a flashlight into an area of wellness that people don't necessarily really know the depths of. And if they do know the depths of, it's probably because someone close. It's not got a lot of attention on it. And so we were chatting about understanding and deeper understanding. And oh, wise one, where have you had some deeper understanding in your life?
I met this blonde lady in a bedroom one day. No, that's not where I got.
No, you didn't get understanding.
But and for those of you that could be interpreted in many, many ways, we were just roommates on our trip to Australia. That's how we met in the bedroom. But no, I think
I pulled the short stick. That's just, I pulled the short stick. They're you go in there.
Wow.
Okay, keep going. That was funny.
This All right. Is karma. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's when you throw a shot at someone and it gets back to you almost instantaneously. Well, I can't find my word, but no, if I talk about understanding me, honestly, I think that I thought I knew a lot about psychology, wellness, mental health for having, had a lot of different experiences in my life and, having a background with dealing with mental health and everything. I always thought that I knew a lot, but I have to say that the ones who were my biggest teachers in this area that really brought me to understanding parts that I did not understand, because as some of you know, I can be quite sarcastic sometimes. So, but it was my kids, definitely. They're now, I have 2 adults and one is starting teenagehood. So yay, we're starting it all over again. And although I went through it 2 times, you would think I understood, but it's really like every single person, every single individual has their own way of dealing with emotions and, puberty and growing up and changes and this and that. And I was fortunate enough also to have a son and 2 daughters. So I also experienced both genders, which, I always thought that, hey, we're all equal and we're all made the same. The day that I gave birth to my daughter, I realized, no, we're not. Really, as babies, there's really a gender difference into how people manage their emotions and manage themselves. But anyway, I could talk for so long on that, because they really brought me, unique experiences, each of them, but it really brought me to understand a lot of things. And especially when they bring you articles on, see, that's why teenagers react this way, and see, this is, so you definitely have to have an open mind and read on it. But I think that being open-minded to learn more has to stay throughout your life, because it doesn't end after teenagehood. It continues in life. And it's very important to really dig and try to understand people. That's basically what I've been trying to do with you for 4 years.
So here I'm all about the duration, honestly. So I'm going to talk about the duration because that's funny. So here's the when there's an understanding and you talk about kids, and I think when you ask a parent, who are your best teachers? It's obviously the people that shine the flashlight on parts of yourself that have to grow, right? I mean, I love Harvey Hendricks. It was one of the books that I read when I was going through a relationship breakup, and he wrote, finding the love that you want and keeping the love that you find. And he talks about, that the people we bring in our life are our biggest mirrors. And if we can actually look at the people that we bring in our life as the mirror that reflects the part of us that needs healing, we're in good play. And it doesn't mean you have to keep everyone in your life. I mean, we know that the more seasoned you get in life, you get more discerning, right? You get more discerning, and you allow or you don't allow based on your morals and values and all that kind of stuff. But I think when you look at the duration of a relationship that has validity, so, you look at ours and the growth that happens when you stay seasoned in something, right? And actually be able to look at yourself. And I think, one of the things that, as you start to, honestly, I'm familiar with, some of the subject that Judith would talked about. When you have someone that's had an experience and they're actually doing something about that, they're actually taking it and making the information available, right? I think about 5 years ago, let's use the internet as an example. 5 years ago, there is platforms that are out there now that never existed. Like at the speed of that we learn, right? At the speed of that we learn, we can really change and grow. And what I'm really proud about as a society and a community is that we tend to learn our lessons. Like we learn things and we change things, maybe not as fast as we want, maybe not to the speed that we want it, but I think when you've got game changers or leaders, or our whole shows about lifepreneurship, not just entrepreneurship, where people are brave enough to start or be a pioneer, wherever you lead off, someone picks up that baton, right? So anyways, I'm not going to talk anymore. There's lots of people that have, inspired me in my life. And obviously you can find them in the bathroom. That should be the title of our show. Be careful who you go to the bathroom with. But I actually want to bring in Judith Snell, who's inspired me enough. And I knew, here's the thing, this has been about 2 years. I just knew in that bathroom, I'm like, hey, come back and talk to me. I was at a trade event, just doing some stuff at a trade event, sharing some good stuff. And I just kind of had a feeling that we would do something at some point, and here we are. And I'm just so happy we're able to highlight what it is that you're doing and hopefully get some attention, you know, to what it is. So Judith, why don't you share with us? We've been talking about you for like a few minutes here, and you've been sitting there patiently, you know, awaiting to be able to share your story. So everybody can hear what it is that you're doing. Why don't you kind of share with us what you're doing, how that happened, you know, where can we take it from there, and what we're going to do about it.
Hi, Deborah,
Hey.
and thanks, Deborah and Carolyn, for supporting men's wellness. So that's true. I met her in the washroom. I was at a Calgary Expo Wellness conference, and I did notice that she had a very fashionable skirt on because I'm into fashion and I have a small fashion business too. So that's what I noticed first. And then we had a dialogue about why we were there. And then I told her, and she shared, and then said to come over the booth. So I took her over more information. So the charity that I was there for to represent for men's wellness is called the Man Wave Movement charity, and it's manwavemovement.com. You'll see the website. And this is supporting men and having an understanding to ride the wave into men's wellness. So they understand that, and so their units of family and friends understand that too. And my experience for that is, one, I've worked with many children and youth that are male and female. And then I also was a bride and a widow in 8 months. And my deceased husband took his life by suicide at 46 years of age. So that was a shock to my system. And gratefully, though, that I already had my career to help me through that. And then what I did with that trauma and sadness was I packaged it together and I started to lobby and to help. I started to help my husband before his death, but it didn't work because intervention was later in his life, right? And so I've gotten a lot of response to it. I did public speaking. An article was written in the Calgary Herald called The Lure of Addiction, because there was addictions with that, which is also mental health that a lot of people don't realize, right? Pathological gambling. And so then I did a workshop called The Missing Pieces That Lead to Addiction. And I worked on that with a psychologist, and I gave that 3 different places. And one was the Alberta Gaming and Liquor Control. And opposing to their direction, but nonetheless, we went and spoke on that. And then any other opportunity I had, I did that. And I took a break from that because I had worked another 13 more years. From 2004, I went back into education right away and working in mental health. So I worked another 13 years with youth. So I just took a back step from that, but I still helped anybody that needed support or needed to hear my story. And then I left the Calgary Board of Education after 18 years and 11 months. And then I took a break. And then I had more of these experiences where I was hearing that men were in crisis and they were attempting suicide and they were taking their lives by suicide. And I thought, okay, this is a clear indication that my job is not done. I'm being called on different levels to do more. So then that's when I decided to have a charity. And then I found a business partner for the charity, Bonnie, that we could work together, and we were like-minded and we had parallel careers. And she does coaching and therapy with people. And then we united, and the charity, we put in our application, and then the charity was accepted on June 25th, 2019.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I have for you here, and that I'm sure some people are wondering as well. Well, congratulations, and it's a very noble, thing to do, to actually donate yourself this much to be helping people. But why did you choose men versus mental health in general? Like, why focus on men? And
well, the reason is because there isn't enough support for men. And like and this is even starting in young men, like, when I worked in trade schools and that, and my job was to support students through any struggles intellectually, emotionally, etc. And the biggest part of my job was to listen. And I would have young men say to me, we don't have a voice, people aren't listening, we don't feel supported, we don't know what to do. And I would bake cookies, muffin, bannock, and I'm not a Martha Stewart, so understand that. But I knew that was that part of that nurturing, to have the dialogue. And they knew that I was there to listen. They knew that just about me as a person. Like, I still run into kids that many years later, and I remember you, and thank you for that support. And so it is about listening and understanding. And there's males are socialized different, and people think they should be tough, they shouldn't cry, but they're not. They're very sensitive, right? And they want that opportunity to be able to have that validated and understand that they're not tough, that they can cry often, and that they are sensitive. They have, really kind hearts. It's no different than us as women. But the difference is that we've been socialized different. Like, I endeavor to talk in the bathroom. Now, men doing that is unlikely that they're going to talk in the bathroom. And it's just a different, and we can have open, frank conversations like this more in women groups or one-on-one than men will do. But they're starting to learn that, because they're having to learn that for their own wellness, and their family members and their community are starting to engage in that and say, hey, this is okay, right? If you want to cry, you cry, because they cry for their children, they cry for their mates, like, that's healthy. That's like, women aren't supposed to get angry. Well, I've been plenty angry, right? Like that's a healthy emotion. And so anyway,
I think
that's why I selected men.
I think a big distinction in, not associating vulnerability to strength. I think a big part of, anyway, how I was raised is exactly like you said, boys don't cry, men don't cry. Girls, you kick like a girl, you run like a girl. So it was very divided. But a big part is that vulnerability is not a question of weakness or strength. It's actually, for me, a big strength. But it's probably showing, that's what I tried to teach my son, that being vulnerable takes a lot of courage and strength, actually. But it's also associated to showing your emotions, showing your vulnerabilities. So,
and it's healthy to do that.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes up our whole body. Like, we're androgynous, right? We have masculine and female traits. And I'm not talking about genders, I'm talking about those traits. And as life has evolved, we've had to have more of that for survival. And that makes sense that you have both those traits, as individuals, because you're healthier, and it stabilizes you more.
Right.
And feelings are to be sad, to be angry, that whole concept is they're open, and they're for all genders to be able to express that. And that's that part of understanding and allowing people to give a voice to that. And so that's why I felt the charity would allow that. and the men would come together in peer pods, and then they facilitate and they do the public speaking. And so it's like their little man fort. So they do that all together. And then they can decide if they want to have friends, and support, and where that goes from there. But what Bonnie and I are doing is we're planting the seeds, and then it will grow from there.
Yeah, so Judith, let's just say that I'm listening to this interview, and I'm the wife, mother, sister, aunt of a man in my life that I know is struggling with mental health. I don't think we've really talked about it. It's like, that mental health piece that, October is mental health month. So it's gonna be a nice little, so what is it I could do? What is it, if you can give me perspective on, so if there's a man themselves going, okay, well, I've kind of heard of this organization and I'm not sure what the heck, and I'm going to go to their site. Tell me what kind of resources they could find, or what kind of resources are we hoping to help you? We're going to do some stuff we'll announce later, but what is it that you see that they need? What is it that you see that they need?
Well, one thing on our website, we have a lot of, it's based out of Calgary and a few other, but we have lots of resources. And I have everything, like we have one doctor that is going to be on our e-summit, Dr. Michael Duran. He's from the States, and he set up 25 groups for men, and he goes to one of them, and there's support groups, and a lot of them are still going. And he did that in the 90s. So he was very proactive, and he knew the need because he knew that personally himself. And he's a renowned doctor. He's on our website. And right now we also have where people can actually email him and they can ask him questions. He's a very down-to-earth man. And then we have coaching available online. And we have, it's saying suicide lines and places for veterans, because that's a huge issue too. And then I've listed all different men's groups that are being supportive, because in the last year, I see this is something in my way here. In the last year, I have just seen all these groups coming up, and that's amazing because there wasn't that support in 2004. And even I watched somebody on TV the other, another woman that was, and same thing, 2017. And so I deliberately listed all the resources, and I continue to do that when I get more. And I've put it all on there that people can get the information. And I think too is to have a conversation. So you can even have that conversation at the supper table is important, because people are in community and they're eating. And so say if we're all a family together, and then you're noticing and you're saying to your son, John, I've how are you doing, and how's school doing, and I've seen that you've been struggling. How can we support you? Because it's about not isolating it and not keeping it hidden, and family secrets, because that was a problem for my husband. Family secrets, and none of that came to light. Like, none of his family told me that before I went into a marriage with him, right? Mm-hmm. And so secrets build and build and build. So have open dialogue. And just like women will say, you could have seen me crying in the washroom. I will probably bet that you as an individual would say, are you okay? And I would say, I'm not okay. I just lost my mother yesterday. But it's all a part of that, where you're having saying dialogue. So that's what I suggest to people, is have open dialogue. Or you'll have to say to a friend, like, are you okay? Because I hear you talking about depression all the time. This is an example. I have a very professional friend, and her husband went through serious health issues, and he started getting dementia young, and then he started vision, And then she started to tell me that she was getting depressed. And then I said, "Are you suicidal?" And she said, "I've thought of it." I said, "You need to get to the doctor tomorrow. I want to know what time you're going, and I want to call as soon as you're gone there. And then I will call you back." And she never thought in her life that she would be at that part of depression or having suicidal thoughts. So it can be anybody. That's what I'm saying.
I think that's really an incredible piece. I mean, Caroline, you could probably speak to that. I think that, I mean, again, so I'm in my 50s. I think there's differences in kind of what you said. Like, there's things where there's been generations, and I think we come from that, where what happens in this house, we don't talk about what happens in that house. Okay, so we keep what happens in this house in this house. So you don't share what's going on here out there, right? That's one part of it. So I think we really culturally have learned to mind our own business, which in some aspects is good. You know what I mean? You don't talk about people's business, but I also think that part of us thinks that what happens in this house, in our house, we need to keep to ourselves as well. And I think you're bang on that culturally men have been taught that a little. It's in a different form than women, right? Women don't speak, you know, in this way. Men don't speak in this way. But when you say that, I got to tell you, I think that's very brave of you, and probably from someone who's been on the other side of it. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to say to somebody, even if it's a close friend, like, "Hey, have you thought of suicide? Has there been suicidal thoughts?" Like, and then for someone to actually say yes, that's that. When you talk about open dialogue, that's an incredible piece, because I think most of us have something that says, that's crossing a line. That's crossing a line. That's a very personal question. So, I mean, I'm saying brave on you, but I think that's the kind of permission we need to tell people that they have, you know?
Well, it's all part of that wellness and community.
Yeah.
Because I can truly say to you, if I was at that point, I'd want either one of you or anybody else helping me out. Because when you're at that state, you're not in a good way.
Yeah.
And I have training in it too, but I know it's in my heart. And since my husband died, I've had people come to me and tell me of people they've lost by suicide or what's going on with them, and I can intuitively pick it up. Like, I've worked in lots of different situations, so that's a gift.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that I don't feel burdened by it. I'm blessed for that, because if I've helped one person, that is amazing. And I know I've helped many more.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't sound. Caroline?
Yeah, the one thing that I want to add here is I've had quite a few experiences with, a bunch of subjects related to depression, suicide, this and that. And the one thing that I'm listening to you, and people are scared. People are actually scared to ask that question, because, it's a bit like when you see someone in the morning and you're like, "Hey, how are you?" No one turns around and like, "It sucks this morning." You don't even want them to answer that, because
unknown caller.
else, the last thing you want is for them to say, "I'm not going well," because you don't have the time to stop and listen. We ask that as a polite question. So I think that when we get in with deeper conversations, or when you know that someone has something, sometimes people are scared to ask, because first of all, they know what they're going to do. If the person answers like, "Yes, I'm suicidal," what do? Because you feel right at that point, you start feeling responsible. And I actually had that kind of story when I was 19. We were at a party, and we were all having a few drinks, and one of the girls there that was not a close friend, she told me, like, "You know what, I think I want to end it, and tonight would be a good night." I was 19. I was just like, we high-fived it, like, "Oh, you're so funny." Well, she did it that night. And for me, that was the biggest lesson, because she didn't say it crying, super serious or whatever. we were just kid having a beer together. But so sometimes you don't know, when to take someone seriously or whatever. But for me, what that taught me is that you always take it seriously and you do ask the questions. And, especially now, even if you don't know what to answer to the person, there's so many resources. And, that's why we bring on people like you to actually share the fact that there's a lot of resources. There's some that are specific to men, to women, to teenagers, to elderly. So don't be scared to ask that question, because it actually really can save a life.
And that's right. And you're right on. And no one talks about that, not unless it's an issue.
Yeah.
And so it's 911, whatever the emergency number is in whatever province you live in, you directly dial that. If you dial that for your friend, and then you give the number and the location where they are if they can't dial it. And there used to be an ad, it was a lot of years about, like somebody was getting in the elevator and how are you? And so then this guy said, well, I haven't been feeling very well and I lost my job and I did that. And it always reminded me that we should be honest, right? Depending on like exactly where you are, but, allow people that, and even in your family, like, how are you? And there's one new support group for men, and it says, how are you, Steve? How really are you? Right? So even that open dialogue, and it's a question. It's the question, an open-ended question that asks how that is. And especially now with COVID, that's even a huger thing to ask how people are, and they're checking in. And I live in a condo of 80 people, and I'm on the board. I do all the health and safety. And I have people giving me information that they're not doing so well. So I check in with them and I'm helping them out. And I made sure that there's a sheet with all about the counseling and the emergency numbers, and made the board aware right in the beginning that we need to have a real awareness, because things are changing. And this is going to be on for quite a while psychologically for people.
Right.
And it just takes a moment. It's like, how are you, Carolyn? Like I did that in the beginning, right? How are you doing? And how are you doing, Deborah? And it makes you feel like validated. Like, how am I?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And I might be bitchy today. I've said to people, like, I can say that. And so I used to have that conversation with kids. They'd ask me how I was. I'd ask them how I was. And I was honest about it. I couldn't put swear words in it with kids in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anyway, yeah, so that's a key thing.
What is it? So, I mean, Caroline, I'm going to ask you, and then maybe, you ask Judith and have some dialogue. So, it's something, I mean, I talk to Caroline all the time. How's it going? How's it this? How's it that? And we know when those are short answers, or we ask our kids, and, from boys, I've had a boy and a girl as well. And everyone's like, oh yeah, you ask your daughter when she comes in from school, so how'd it go today? Well, you know what? So-and-so, blah, blah, blah. And she said, blah, and you get all of this verbiage. You get like the download. You're like, whoa. And then your son comes in, you're like, hey, how's it today? Boys are known for grunting. It's like,
you say, what does that mean?
Yeah, what is that? Perfect, right? So what is that? What does that grunt mean, actually? And the permission to dig a little bit. So look, I know we can all be honest here. We've had our do, and everything in between, right? And so, so Carolyn, what are some of the things that you do when you're not feeling so great? What do you do for yourself to make yourself, just from a mental health point, stand better? Like, what's your go-to?
Well,
other than picking on me,
yeah.
what's your go-to?
Well, that does help though. So thank you.
I'm glad to know.
But no, I think that in the past, I've let myself go very low, and I've let myself hit rock bottom, so that now I will make sure I never hit there anymore. So I think that a lot of what I do is preventative as well. So that, I'll do self-care, which is not necessarily spa and massage. It's just like taking my vitamins, taking my shower, making sure I'm feeling good in my skin. And that's a huge part, by the way. So that goes with your diet, exercise, all of that. I know that for me, I have to play soccer or whatever type of intense sport because I know it's good for me. So I won't let myself go without doing it because, you know, it's not that I feel like it every single time, but that too, you need to have a discipline. Read every day, listen to podcasts, listen to, you know, TED Talks. Sometimes, honestly, when I listen to someone motivating, it gives me a headache and I'm like, stop being so happy. It's so annoying, you know? I'm just, and I force myself to listen to them because as I do my internal dialogue of like, she's so annoying, look at her smile and blah, blah, I'm like, whoa, girl, you have issues, you know, so I can actually, I don't know, what I want to say is that I'm trying to go more preventative, but definitely like when I feel like if I would feel like I'm sinking, you know, I call you, I call my other friends, I will definitely call someone and I journal. Sometimes just writing a letter to whoever you're mad at or whatever you're mad at. Sometimes writing it down, it's just like taking it out of you. But I think that the biggest part of all of that is do preventative and really be aware. You know, when we talk about understanding is that when you get to a point that you understand that mental health is physical, it's not a choice always. Yes, there's a part that you can work on, but there's a big part also that is physical that you need to deal with. So you don't let yourself get there. And when the minute that you see that it's getting there, you try to do something about it. And like Judith was saying, I think it's so crucial to look for signs in people. But that too, it takes, you know, it takes putting yourself aside a little and really when you ask the question, how are you, to really want the answer. And sometimes just asking the question to someone makes them feel like someone cares, and right there, you could have changed something in their life. But I would definitely, for me, it's like when there's something, address it right away, because these are like weeds, it grows so fast. Like, so what is, besides calling me and picking on me, no, she's not picking on me, like she calls me and she just goes like, oh. Besides Deborah, what are you doing?
What am I doing? You know what? I think a lot of what you said made a lot of sense. I'm very much a prevention person, but that's my work. That's my field, right? So I've been in preventative medicine for a long time. So I try to keep my body really physically strong. I do that through a lot of supplementation, right? Like I really believe good things in my body help my mind be strong. But there's times where my head just takes itself. And so I did a lot of journaling for a lot of years. My techniques really change. I mean, I can do the eating well, the supplementation, the talking to people. I have to say the two things lately, because, you know, we talked about how things have shifted lately. I'll say the two things that I've done lately that's been really, really helpful is one, really watch who I hang out with. Like I really am, the more seasoned I get in my life, and, you know, that's a nice way of saying older, by the way, people. So the more seasoned I get in my life, the more I really measure where my energy is going, who I'm spending that time with, and who I'm taking advice from. So for me, I'll be completely honest. In my 20s, I recognized that I needed to look at some stuff in my dynamic, you know, in the family dynamic, what was going on for me in my life. And I fortunately, or I don't know how, but I kind of got forced, actually. I got forced into the idea of a counselor. Forced into the idea of a counselor. I didn't just like epiphany come to me, right? And someone said, I think you need to go talk to someone. And I was at a point in my life where it was really crossroads. Like I didn't have much other options anymore. My stuff was waking up in the morning before I was. And I was losing control of being able to make that decision whether I was happy or not happy or doing self-destructive behavior, which was happening for me. I wasn't making good choices. And so someone intervened and said, you need to do this because it's not going very well, in case you didn't notice. And I didn't notice until I noticed. And so I've been one that's used counselors, emotional. I've done some great work lately with someone who's done emotional therapy work. I do holistic treatments. I get massage. I yeah, so I think I get business development coaches. Like I keep trying to better myself. I think the betterment, and someone that I can actually talk and really be honest with. So watching who I hang out with and who I spend time with is a big one. And I'm going to tell you, for me, one of my fallbacks has been, and I did it last night, super exhausted, super tired. I watch live comedy before I go to bed. From the time that I fell in love with Johnny Carson. And so I am telling you, I'm a little older than 20. I went from Johnny Carson to Jay Leno to, Jimmy Kimmel to James Coburn, love him. What was the Scottish guy that he was really great too? I watch late night comedy. And right now, lately, I'm like in love with Wanda Sykes. I mean, that woman just makes me laugh. And so I watch comedy. I watched it last night. I watched 3-minute clips on YouTube of comedy because I happened to watch the news last night, and I was like, I didn't really like listening to that. I just want to keep myself on top of things. And so I watched that to counter that for me. So that's what I do. And so Judith, we got to ask you, I mean, you've had an experience. I mean, when you say bride and widow in 8 months, I don't know if that really lands for people, but man, that landed for me when we talked yesterday. Like being married, like that's within 12 months. And I don't even know.
It was actually 8.
Yeah.
8 months.
Yeah. So I don't even know what that would be like. I'm not even going to pretend to know, but I mean, your coping skills must be incredible. And to do this kind of work as well. So I can tell you, there's a couple of charities that I really believe in, and the content of those charities are pretty intense. And sometimes I can't even read the newsletter. Sometimes I'm like, here, I can help you financially this month, but wow, that's really intense. It's intense. It gets to me. How do you deal with your own stuff and then be a beacon for other people going through quite intense stuff? Mental health is, it's not a light topic.
Well, it's not. Well, I have a sense of humor. And I've also been blessed with a really great heart. Like, and Carolyn, I could feel about your friend and about you losing her, and just know that, we can listen and we can try to help people, but we can't stop everyone. I couldn't do that with my own husband, right? So just know that. So I had to say that part because I could feel that for Carolyn. And I humor is important to me. Like we have Rick Mercer, you got to check him out, and we have Jan Arden. She's hilarious, but humor is really important. And I actually did a stand-up comedian show last year, and I'd like to do that more. And I did it for a charity for anti-bullying for youth. So I was pretty funny.
That's awesome.
So, and like mental health is some people, oh, well, why'd you pick that? And anyway, but it is, use humor a lot in your work because you have to have a laugh. And I'm human just like everybody else. I feel sad. I cried for children when I went through my situation. I did lots of letter writing and destroyed the letters after I wrote letters to my past mate. I made sure that people had the opportunity to write letters to Robert, after he passed on and do all that. I made sure to get that in place, had everybody involved in the celebration, like celebrating the positive part. I knew that there was nothing that I could do, that I loved him unconditionally. And actually on his gravesite, I had it put that God loves us all unconditionally. So that was a closure for me. And I do regular exercise and I do dancing, and I have this, I live on a park, and there's a flight of stairs right now. It's 130 stairs up, 130 down. So I've been doing that 4 and 5 times and walk around the park. So that's almost 11,000 steps. And I'm very creative. So I have a business called Hey Jude Redesigns, and that takes hours, and I embellish clothes. And then now I've just started a mask for making designer masks for people. I've made some already, but now I'm going into that bigger. And I have fun times with family and friends, and I journal, and I have a gratitude book, and I pray, and I give thanks for what I have and blessings for other people, and I've done that lots for my charity. I've given thanks for you and Carolyn, you know, and so that's all come, like, you know, there's a reason we're supposed to meet in the bathroom, right?
I know. Yeah.
For that, that's on a personal level, and then in the work that we do, because we touch people personally. So it's to me, I understand the whole order of that.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, I rest. I watch movies that I like, and yeah, that's what I do.
I thought that you were going to say there's no magic pill.
Well, there's not, and I have a Mustang, and I like driving that.
Yeah.
And
To my
way too many speeding tickets, but I've slowed down because they're too expensive.
Right.
I did say to my kids a few times, because especially my little one, she will be like, why am I not happy today? I just want to be happy. And I'm like, it takes work. Everything takes work. But what I'm hearing, you know, and everything that we're saying is that we all have something in common, is that we have discipline, routines, and we have gratitude. And I think you really need to, that's something you really need to establish in your life. Only if you wake up and you're able to breathe, well, be grateful.
That's right.
And move your hair. Well, it means you have hair, you have your hands, you have your arms, you have your fingers to count. So, you know, I don't know if any of you ever like injured their pinky, and then for a week you're like that, and you're like, this little guy doing quite a bit of stuff that I wasn't aware of. Because then, but anyway, you know, long story short is really there's no magic pill for feeling better. I think it's a big part of wanting it, working for it, and having a routine. And
yeah,
I have to. It's okay to feel like being sad and upset and a little bit depressed. You know, that's normal. It's a part of a process of life. But we have these magazines and, you know, some motivational speakers, you know, you should be happy all the time. That's not realistic. That's not how your body works. We need to get over that. And I'm hopeful that COVID has really opened people's worlds like that. You know, you are who you are, and embrace that, and let other people embrace it. And, you know, with kids, I'm working in mental health, they would say to me, what do you want to work with people like me? And I go, pardon me? See? So they're hearing these voices from society that they're not perfect and they're not normal. And I go, you're great kids. You've got lots of potential. You can do anything that you set your mind to that you're comfortable to do.
Yeah.
And so that's true. And so as women, you know, magazines a lot will tell us, you know, you have to be the perfect shape. You have to be successful in everything that you do. And that's not realistic. It is not realistic. We just need to be who we are. And then men the same. They think that they should be high achievers, 6 figures. You know, they should have the perfect family and their children, and that's not realistic.
Right.
And that's what gets us in trouble.
So let's wrap this up, ladies, with something that's pretty celebratory, right? So look, I think we've all decided that people need to know more about men's health and wellness, right? And I think that we're going to be putting on an event. So I'm just going to announce that we're going to be putting on an event, and it's going to be happening in October, which if people don't know is Mental Health Month. And if you're watching this video in, you know, 2025 or something, we're talking about 20, you know, we're having an event. We're having an event in October 2020.
Well, you can still donate if it's 2025.
Yeah, you can still donate. So we're going to throw a really big win-win-win. We're not going to tell you all the details. You're going to contact us and you're going to want a VIP special guest event to a party that we're doing. Yes, it's going to be online, and it's going to be online in a way you've never seen a party before. So you have to dress up. You got to go do the do. You got to go get your hair done. You got to go get your suit on. You got to go get your tux on. You got to go get your dress on. We may not see your shoes, but you better have party shoes on, because we're going to do a really cool fundraising, but everybody wins. That's all we're going to tell you. Everybody wins event coming up in October. We're going to announce that because, Judith, what are some of the things that, honestly, as a blooming, right? This is, this charity that you're doing, it doesn't have 10, 15 years of people knowing about it and doing the annual subscriptions and all those things that other charities have. And obviously we've talked about COVID. It's in a little bit of a funky time. People are not as resourceful as they've needed to be, which is why we're doing a win-win-win fundraiser. So everybody wins. So what are some of the things that, oh, look at this. Sorry, you guys, if you're watching this by video. What are some of the things that we can do? So we're going to have this great event, and we're going to raise some funds for your event. And what are some of the resources that you need? And maybe leave it off with that, and then tell us again the website of where people can go. And then if Caroline, if you want to sign us off, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay, so the resources that we're collecting charitable funds for, you can do that right online at manwavemovement.com. It goes directly into the bank account. And so first of all, we want to get rental places. We want to go into 4 quadrants of the city. And then we want to have the men meet there in small groups. And we want to have facilitators, and they might be in-house, but even give them an honorarium for that, and have in-house speakers. And then coffee and tea. And then we need for administration, like papers and stuff and that. We need for advertising, because we have brochures, and we also have postcards and business cards. And I just found a really good mask maker that will put our logo on it, Man Wave Movement, and then Ride the Wave into Wellness. So we can have masks. And then we want to have e-summit. And then that will be having Dr. Michael Duran, and he'll speak on the e-summit. So that will open that more. And then go on the website and share the website with everybody and start having conversations in your family. That's what it's all about. And it's the charity will develop. We'll start with one group, and then we'll go from then. But we already, we have one fellow that's interested in doing that, and he's doing it on a small level, on 1-to-1. So that's what the money goes to. And then you would get a receipt, and then we're seeing online if you can get a government receipt too. And if not, then we write that receipt right from the charity.
Right. Okay. So it's about expanding. It's about expanding and getting, just getting this out there to people, really. Like everything that you're talking about is just sharing the word. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And then the understanding that that's needed. Yeah. And so we're starting in Calgary, and then want to go Alberta, and then, that can extend across Canada and then into the States. And you'll see, one thing I do want to mention this, we have, I put Steve Harvey, I put his foundation for young men and women on there. And look at motivational stories from that man. He has lost and rebuilt and lost to rebuild. And he has unbelievable faith and gratitude, and really respectful to people. And so that was a good connection for me. And then I would listen to how he mentors young males. He does this every Monday, and he has phenomenal, he's blessed and he's gifted to what he gives to others and the gratitude that he has. And that's how it all happens, right? Just what I'm saying, sharing. understanding, listening, and understanding. So
Great.
check him out too, because he he is really motivational, and he's right on the. I have a link on the site, but he's he has lots to share about understanding.
Cool.
Well, thank you for all this information. I think it's
Welcome.
so much information, so you guys can listen to it and re-listen to this podcast. We're actually going to put Judith's website right with the podcast. Thank you everyone for, you know, being with us. And I think that, you know, for me, the one thing that I understood of everything you said is that you really want to build awareness, and you really want to build, you know, educate people around it, because there's no other way to solve mental issue than educating people that are affected by it, people around it, and as a society, get educated and stop, you know, banalizing it, like making that just a taboo subject. Mental health is a real thing, and thankfully in the last years we're hearing more and more about it, but there's definitely something that we need to do about it. We need to be more aware, and it's really just a community thing. It's just not personal, you know, it's not just one person, it's a community thing. So I admire you for what you're doing and for the strength that you have. Thank you for being here. And Deb, I'll leave you the last word, because I know that you like to have the last word.
Oh, see, it's right there. It's right there. It's right on her tongue. It's right on her tongue. Well, absolutely. It's been a pleasure, ladies. I think that there's really not much more that I can say on that. There's not much more I can say. I just really encourage everybody to come to this event that we're doing, right? So we've pooled our resources. It's going to be, you know, an online event like you've never seen. I really encourage you just to come on and hear more and have some fun. We're going to have some fun. It's going to be an event. The topic's kind of, you know, it's got its pieces to it, but we're going to have a great time making change. We're going to have a great time making change. And that's it. That's all I got to say. So I just welcome everybody to come to our event, and we're going to share that more all over social media. So thanks, ladies. It has been a wonderful afternoon, and I guess I'll talk soon.